The vast majority, regardless of what you're making, what your cash flow is, people do not have an accurate number on, and they don't know where money is going on a monthly basis.
This is BetterWealth with Caleb Guilliams. Welcome to BetterWealth Unlocked, the part of the show where we talk to BetterWealth coaches and help people unlock their ability to live a more intentional life. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the importance of data. And not the most sexy topic of all time, but I'm telling you, if you don't have the right information, it does not matter. And so I'm going to stop talking and give it over to the guy on the front lines that is dealing with people every day and talking about the data. And just real quick, it would be really cool to understand the why behind this. But then also for the people watching this on YouTube or listening to this on the podcast, what kind of data do they need to understand if they really want to take control of their money?
Absolutely. Thanks, Caleb. So one of the things that we have really gotten serious about is understanding the numbers, the data, because this is stuff that whenever your wealth coach asks you, are you making this amount of money? And it's not really $100,000, it's more like $98,736. That means a lot if you're talking about the next 30 or 40 years. So it's important for us to get accurate data. One of the things that we do as the first part of BetterWealth Unlimited is when somebody says, hey, we want to work with you guys, it's super important to not make decisions in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. And when you don't have the right data and you haven't confirmed that it's accurate, that's essentially what you're doing. So if you've ever gone anywhere, had somebody talk to you about a financial product, and you didn't have accurate data and you made a decision for the long term, it gets worse if the data is not accurate. Mm-hmm. So we seek to, in the initial portion of this, really get a firm understanding of where we are today. So coming from my military background, I like to describe this as if you have to get a good sit rep, which is a situation report. And if I give a crappy sit rep to the commander, he cannot or she cannot make solid decisions because we don't accurately understand where we are right now in our battle space. When we do, then we can make accurate decisions because we've got a good starting point to go from. And so that's why we put such a big emphasis on getting the correct data. So we can go back to this idea of cash flow, what's coming into the household economy or business or whatever the case may be, and then what's being consumed and what's being saved. Yep. If we break it down from there, we talk about assets, talk about liabilities, we talk about real estate, we talk about risk management portfolio, so insurances, how do we transfer those risks? What are we doing? And that's exactly it. What are we doing with regards to money? Where is it going? And how are we accountable to that? And I would say, I don't like to use percentages, but the vast majority, let's put it that way, the vast majority, regardless of what you're making, what your cash flow is, people do not have an accurate number on, and they don't know where money is going on a monthly basis.
Yeah, it's in full disclosure, if you're an entrepreneur and you work with us, when you tell us that you make $300,000, we have we call it the 1/3 rule for entrepreneurs. We divide that in three, and we're like, okay, until you could prove to us you make $100,000. It's just kind of funny because as part of being an entrepreneur, you have to be optimistic.
That's right.
But what's happened is we will make a decision, make an incredible strategy off the information that we know. Yep. And then I'll be the first to say, I look back and say, knowing what I know now, I would have done things differently because I was not making a decision based on all the data.
That's right. A couple great things happen, and I want to encourage everybody to take this on board right now. If you are not tracking where your money is going, start doing it today. Come up with some sort of system, whether it's a Google Sheet or Quicken, it doesn't matter. It could be paper, pencil, which I think people still use sometimes, believe it or not. But anyway, track where your money is going. It is an extremely revealing process. Just like if you're struggling with nutrition, if you start tracking what you're eating, it's an extremely revealing exercise. So start tracking your information.
Well, and just going off of that, as a team, we do a daily huddle. And part of the philosophy of the daily huddle is we don't actually keep people accountable, which is interesting. We have other mechanisms to do that, but we're just telling people what we're doing.
Yep.
And I'm like, when we first did this, I'm like, man, what if Jereme tells me he's going to do the X and he keeps on saying, oh, I'm going to do this today? Well, it's just the idea of being accountable,
That's right.
of stating something is everything. I had a mentor that told me when you track your money, you control it.
Yep. That's essentially what tracking it is, taking responsibility, accountability for it. The cool part about BetterWealth Unlimited is as we move through the process, there's ongoing accountability.
Yeah.
But if we don't start with the correct raw information, we fail ourselves and we fail the client, and that's intolerable as far as I'm concerned. That's as far as I'm concerned. So if what we do and how we work with clients is interesting to you, first off, just immediately start tracking everything that's happening. And in addition to that, when and if you take the step to work with us, be as honest as you can, because you're going to get me on the other end of a Zoom going, is this accurate? And now you're accountable for it.
Right.
Okay?
So, go on. Continue your thought.
And the other thing is that documentation of all of this is really important. So when we document, this is what we said and we agreed upon, and I say we because it's your model. I'm doing my very best to make sure that it's accurate. You need to do your very best to make sure that it's accurate. So if we need to get documentation, we need to get documentation. And it's because, guys, 30, 40, 50 years from now, this has a massive impact on your life.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yep.
It's huge.
100%. So if someone's like, okay, there's two types of people. There's people that are like, hey, I want to do this on my own. What information do I need? And if they were going to work with someone like us, what kind of information, big picture? I mean, we're looking at cash flow, assets, and liabilities on like a big picture. Well, what kind of documents are you asking for, and what's the process of getting started? Because one of the things I would want to be fully transparent, it's like we will work with you across the board. The more information, the better. But we understand there's some people have a lot of stuff, so we work off of what we can do. But the more information, the better. And so what are you expecting people to do as they come into the process to work with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you come into the process, we're asking certain questions through our initial questionnaire, and that allows us to get an initial model built, and then we confirm that in your clarity meeting. In the clarity meeting, I really think that having documentation of all the information that we're discussing is valuable. So tax returns is an example. Understanding insurances, right?
Yep. Knowing
what your disability income is from work. Understanding where your statements are with regards to bank accounts, liabilities, all of that. If you're listing 5 or 6, 7 credit card debts or other forms of credit, and we don't know exactly what the unpaid balance is, what's left on that unpaid balance, the terms
Yep.
of those things, it's really hard for us to look at what are the flexibilities, what are the efficiencies of that, because we just don't have the raw data.
Right. Most of you guys have trust. Slap on your hand. Most people don't. But most people that have trust or wills have not updated it or don't know where their money. Like, it's very revealing. The process of even getting data, you'll find things. You're like, oh,
that's right.
I'm the only person on this bank account, or it's just super revealing. And like, even for someone like me, like, tracking expenses is really tough, but we now have mechanisms through business. It's once a month reviewing, but that has just been a really, really purifying process for me in general.
Yeah. And for the sake of integrity, I want you guys to know that I hold my household economy hostage, if you will, to the BetterWealth model. And I do that because how good would I be if I didn't?
Yeah.
Right? And so it continues to inspire me and continues to move me forward, my personal household economy, as well as when I'm talking to folks.
I think this goes back to the analogy that I loved using all the time, is if you don't know where you want to go, any road will get you there. And part of knowing where you want to go is getting clarity, and that's what's interesting as we go into a clarity meeting. Yeah. And how can you have clarity if you don't know where you are at?
That's why that's the first step. And we use data, not hopes and dreams, to talk about where we are. You have to have a good situational awareness for the commander to make good decisions.
Anything else that you have, any thoughts around the importance of having data if you really want to live a more intentional life and get this whole money thing figured out?
Yeah, I come back to this idea of hope. I think a lot of people don't want to track because they're concerned that they know in their heart what the data is going to tell them.
Yep.
Get over it, quite frankly, because you're never going to get control of it unless you deal with it and get responsible about putting money in its rightful place so that you can be more intentional in your family, in your community, in your church, in your business, all of it.
This is why this part of the show is called Better Wealth Unlocked, because we really want to instill keys for you to unlock like things about your money, things about your life. Just having a third person, having a coach can really help you in that. And that's why like I'm accountable to the system and to coaches. And so appreciate you, man, about this. We appreciate you listening to this. This is only made possible because people listen, share this message. And so if you're listening to this on the podcast, we appreciate you sharing and commenting. And if you're on YouTube, we're like really trying to blow up our YouTube channel. So the more thumbs up you can give, if you haven't subscribed, if you could do that, and just sharing our channel means the world. And Jereme, as always, thank you so much.
My pleasure, man.
Thank you so much for listening to the Better Wealth Podcast. It would mean the world to me if you could hit subscribe, leave a review, and share this with the people that you know and love.